very interesting campaign because so you're running as congressman for the 12th district of North Carolina, right?
Yep.
And if I'm not mistaken, like you guys have never had a Republican representative ever.
Yeah, that is correct.
Like, what do you even think about that?
I mean, it's crazy, right? Um, but this is where I live, you
Mhm,
know, and I know you're from California. I'm from California,
mhm,
and if I were to run out there, you were. I mean, I don't know. We'll find out more about where exactly, what you if you were to run, what your platform would be. But if I ran in California, right, it'd be the same thing. You're running as a Republican in
mhm,
California. Why would you do that? But um, it is a civic we have a civic duty as citizens to be involved. That doesn't mean
mhm.
everyone has to run, but it is important if we want America to be America that people take responsibility. And I felt it pull at my heart to get involved in this way and to run. And I didn't feel like waiting for a particular time that'd be better or doing it like that. Not to say that, you know, who knows what is to come, but I felt a pull to be here in Charlotte where I've been
Mhm.
for 5 years and run.
So, like, are you new to politics? Because this is the first time you've ever ran for office, right?
It is. It is. I knocked doors for Trump in 2024,
Mhm,
and was involved in different organizations for a little bit, but that's kind of the extent of my experience with formal political involvement. But I've always been someone who would enjoy these type of conversations, so I like to say I've been involved for quite some time.
no, and it's definitely very interesting because you get to learn a lot about people and really how they vote. And so I'm a registered Democrat, but it's reaching a point that it doesn't even matter because a lot of these politicians don't even have your interest at heart. So it doesn't even matter who you vote for because most of the time you're voting for just one group and it's just like two sides of the coin. So like, what do we even do about that?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I feel like we're used to politicians saying one thing and then doing another. Um, I believe for me, I'm running as a Republican because I'm conservative,
Mhm.
and the Republican Party speaks better to that. But I also know that Republicans have had power, and over we just hit $39 trillion in debt. We're about to hit 40 trillion, and that's been under Republicans and Democrats, and we've had wars under Republicans and Democrats. So I yes, I mean, it does feel like it's hard to have real change, but voting is our best way of making things work. So for me, I didn't see a voice that I was very excited to vote for. I felt
Mhm.
like my perspective of talking about, wow, we need to fix the money if we really want to fix our problems. The fact that people are losing ground year after year, the fact that the future in America, I think everyone can just see over the last couple of years that things have gotten worse, not better. And then thinking about their kids and their grandchildren, where that's trending. I believe my ideas speak to that more than what's in the mainstream.
Mhm.
And as an American, have the opportunity to run and it's been really cool. I've been able to get just a lot of support. I mean, stepping into this space, I didn't necessarily know what that looked like, but it's hard because it feels like this beast that you don't even really know where to start. But so I would say speaking up and just having more of a culture where people speak about their beliefs.
Mhm.
I think that would go a long way. I think that where we are today, probably our biggest issue is that we we don't really speak about what we believe, and what ends up coming is groupthink ends up happening, and even if it's really real, that a lot of people um, align with the Democrat platform or Republican platform. If we don't talk about issues, we kind of get what we get.
No, I agree with that, and that's what I always say. Like people always tell you like don't talk about politics, but why? Like you need to talk about politics because what if you're wrong? And the thing about politics is that people don't like to admit that they're wrong, that they think that they're right. Like no, that's not really how it works. And plus, sometimes the truth is not what it seems. It's basically just what people are fed. And if you're getting all of your news from one source, those opinions go unchallenged.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's important that people know what they believe. And when you have more open conversation, it makes people see the humanity in people who they disagree with, right? I mean, I think
Mhm.
that's something that a vast majority of people like they don't get to the point of wishing ill will on people that think differently. But it feels like in a culture where we don't talk about things as much, we all kind of have a fear in the back of our head of
Mhm.
speaking up based on kind of extreme scenarios that happen. And if we look at history, we do know that ideas lead to action, and
Yeah.
ideas come from the heart posture. And there are a lot of murderous ideologies that, I mean, just look at the 20th century that came through that would have been stopped with more conversation. I believe that then truth wins. I am a Christian, and I
Mhm.
believe even those people who are not Christian, there are two fundamental facts that would come out to be just true. Vast majority, if not everyone, believes in them. That all people have value, and we hate to admit the second one. It's that we're all flawed. Therefore, we need checks and balances. And so I'm a big believer in speaking freely, not only because it leads to better results, but it will lead to um, just people examining what they believe, and what comes out of that is great.
No, yeah. And the thing about it is that, I've even spoken with people from other countries, and they say that it's weird that Americans don't talk about politics.
Mhm.
And I mean, as much as we do talk about politics, it just seems like people just fight all the time, and they just try to they
Yep.
just try to prove to the other person that they're the ones on the right. And I mean, like, what do you do?
What do you do? I think that people have to search their hearts and know their motives. It is great to feel like you're the biggest man in the room, and you can kind of crush everyone. And if you go about conversation like that, usually there's something underlying, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
So now, let's talk about your issue. So, what is the issue that you're most passionate about? Because you do work in finance, so
yeah.
that's something that you're really working hard towards to better a better financial outlook, especially for for your district, but for the country.
Yep. Yep. I believe, and why I'm running for a federal position is because I work in finance. I study in school. I've worked in the field for 7 years. I'm in commercial real estate right now, and I believe the most understood yet biggest issue that faces our country and explains why year after year people fall behind, why the American dream, when someone could own a home and all the things people could do 50 years ago and it'd be not that big of a deal, and now it's such a big deal, just affording life, is because we have a dollar that has become devalued or gets devalued, and because of that so many issues arise. So I'm running for a federal position, and what I'm most passionate about speaking to is that.
Yeah, and I mean, apart from that, there's a lot of other issues, a lot of social issues, and but the thing that comes to mind the most is America first. And it seems like we don't have that right now, especially with the current war in Iran. Like, where's America first? Where when it seems like we got pushed into this war by Israel, like that's just crazy in itself.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this term called fog of war, and
Hmm.
I forgot who came up with it. It's the idea that it's hard to know exactly what's going on in war, right?
Hmm.
It's probably why 20 plus years ago with invading Iraq that people didn't know if it was a good or bad thing, but now we can look back and say it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But what's most unsettling to me is the fact that we have to question the intentions of our elected representatives. People are supposed to serve us so much. Something that's part of my platform and it's very problematic is that APAC, they are not registered as a foreign agent. What that means is they can help. Um, they donate to elections and they can hold they can hold a lot of results in their own hands, or I should say, they can control a lot of the results. And because of that, I think it's fair to say, well, we have to question why do we have to question our elected representatives' intentions so much? Perhaps there is an explanation to what's happened in Iran that is in our country's best interest. That's just, but that's kind of where I get hung up and where I agree with you, and it's such a shame.
Yeah, because I voted for Trump, right? And the thing about that is he was an America First president, make America great again, America First, and no more wars. But it just seems that everything that he spoke about, he's kind of ignoring. And that's the main issue that is in politics right now and why we need fresh voices, people that have or that don't have the, how do I say it? That haven't been corrupted by the system. And it just seems that people feel comfortable in electing officials that have been in the system for so long
Mm.
that they've just become corrupted. And even though they speak about all these issues that they just want to tackle, it seems like nothing ever gets done because it's just they're in this position of comfort that they don't have the desire to get things done. And that's why there's I would say afraid of new fresh faces coming and actually doing some change. And I just don't know how it is once you get in there. But like apart from that, like how do you feel that you would um handle that and like that immense pressure because you would be surrounded by a lot of people that have years, maybe even decades in office.
Yep. Yep. It wouldn't be easy, right?
Mhm.
Because you're right. There are right. I'm new to this. I'm new to this.
Mhm.
If I get elected, I need to learn how to navigate Congress. I need to know how to do that in a way where I am not compromising, and that's where my faith comes in. The idea that I don't need approval from man in this world, but from God, and thankful that I yeah, that I'm a Christian. And although I might not it'll be hard to see what the gain could be um, to me in it. If I'm not grounded in my faith, then I'm like by my own strength, right? If I just think I'm going to go in there and I'm going to make everything work. I think that that's short-sighted. I think it's knowing that if I just go off of what would be most beneficial to me,
Mhm.
most beneficial thing to me once I get in is to do what you just said. You just kind of go along with the system. You can get paid a salary, and even some people they trade stocks, right? But
Yeah.
I know that ultimately what is true is more important than what is comfortable.
No, I agree. And it's almost like becoming a parent because there's no certain playbook of how to be a good parent. And I think that's the same with government. There's no playbook on how to be a good politician. And you may have all of these ideas, but once you get in there, it just seems like, damn, shit's real. Like, we need to make some change now.
Yeah, well, the great thing is that we're Americans, and
Mhm,
as Americans, we're in the greatest country in the world because our founding was so great.
mhm.
The wisdom that comes out of the Bill of Rights, that comes out of the Constitution, are ones that we want to persist. So you say there's no playbook. I say there is.
Mhm.
There is a playbook, and it's getting back to constitutional governance and the wisdom which um, we wrote the Bill of Rights,
Mhm.
and the reverence we have for the value of life, the fact that everyone is valuable, not because someone said so, but God said so. And then also the fact that we know that we have to have checks and balances, whether it
Yeah.
be on the government, the powerful. So that's where we're so lucky to be Americans. And this year is going to be our 250th anniversary.
Crazy, man.
And the hope is that this is a great milestone for looking out, and we can say, wow, this is where America really turned back and became America again.
Yeah. And so I want to take it back to your specific district because,
Yep.
running as a Republican in a district that's heavily Democrat, I was watching a Q&A of yours. And I mean, even when you spoke about DEI, like I could just hear the groans just before you even answered the question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what's your position on that? And how do you even navigate having a very or a position that not very many people agree with?
Yeah. I laughed just thinking about that event and being new to politics, and so much of it is how questions are asked. I was given a minute to answer, what do you think about DEI? And in a room full of people that, generally speaking,
Mhm,
I had people that are listening to me attentively, but generally speaking, really agree with it.
mhm,
I think that what's more important though is where we unite, and
mhm.
people want DEI because they have politicians like the person I'm running against, Alma Adams, who says this is the way to freedom and prosperity.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is I have the same goal as her, and I want the same thing for you as uh, uh, Alma is saying. I want the same thing for you that you want. I, I mean, it's tough in a yeah, it's so tough if you're like, well, look, we're falling behind. How do we get ahead? So what I'm saying is DEI and policies like that, they don't actually solve problems. They don't solve problems.
Right.
Alma Adams, who I'm running against, she throws money at problems.
Mhm,
I'm saying I want to talk about how do you actually fix the problems?
mhm.
How do you make sure you don't lose ground? And that's by making sure that you have a currency that just can't get devalued out of thin air. Make
Mhm.
sure that you have free markets so people have choice over their lives versus government programs that force decisions and don't make a strong economy. And then
Mhm.
ultimately, like, just policies that put the American people first, put our country first in a way that that if I'm in office, I'm doing this for the best interest of the country. So, um, your question is a good question. I think that we both have the same goal, and it's a question of how do we get there. And I'm
Mhm.
saying my policies, they're rooted in reality, whereas Alma Adams' policies, it's a fairy tale, it's a false hope, and it
Yeah.
hasn't worked. She's been in office for 12 years, and people are not better off. And look, she's one of 435 in the US House of Representatives,
Yeah.
but her policies are generally what's happened with our government. It's gone bigger, and then they try to play favorites,
Yeah.
and like people don't get better off that way.
Yeah, and I mean, the crazy thing about this is that as a Republican, you have a lot of unpopular positions, and another one is Medicaid, right? And reducing Medicaid or
Yep.
just healthcare.
Yeah, it's sorry, you have a question that you're gonna ask on that, or you want me to just speak to that?
Go ahead. So I just wanted to say that even with your unpopular positions, uh, reducing the amount of money that even maybe even abolishing healthcare, is that the position that you have?
Well, I want to rethink how we do how our economy looks. So
Hmm.
yes, I do not believe that it's ideal to have a system where everything's top down and comes from the government. If
Hmm.
we look at Social Security, for instance, in less than 10 years, it's going to be defunct. And so much of that is because when they put it in place, they had more people paying in
Yeah.
than were receiving it. So it worked better. Now it's the inverse. And
Hmm.
my point with Social Security is the same point with Medicare or Medicaid. When people get used to these programs, they don't want to see it go. But when they don't work, they cause more pain than good, and it makes people more dependent on the government.
Yeah.
So when we speak to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and we just isolate that issue, and it's, hey, Jack wants to just take this away from you. It's like, no, I want to fix the economy so your currency that like will not get devalued. Case in point, 25 years ago, 26 years ago, a home was about, I think it was about 4 times median household income. I believe that's right. Now it's 9 times. Went from a little over 100,000 to 425,000. I want to fix that program, have a productive economy, and have people not dependent on the government. And I believe that's better for all. Um, and that's what I want to work towards. But when we speak about positions like that and we isolate it, um, that's not that's not how I'm going about it. I'm talking about the economy and society as a whole.
Yeah, because I mean, you also touched on Social Security, and even when you mention taking away Social Security, I I'm sure people get scared because they rely on that. But what would be the alternative to that? Because it seems that just having this position is you're taking money away from them, and because you're just trying to be greedy. But I mean, we've seen our government doesn't work already as how it is, and they mismanage a lot of funds. Especially we've seen it out of California, out of Minnesota. They just mismanage funds. So
Yeah.
on top of that, people are scared to even pay into the system. And now that you're taking away money that the system provides them, like what would be the alternative be to that?
50, 60 years ago, even longer than that,
Yeah.
drive in your car and look at the infrastructure. It was built then. We probably don't have the means to build it now. So we're less productive. The alternative to what we have today, where we are nearing $40 trillion in debt, that means any day a blip could happen and it could blow everything up. Alternative to not being able to be productive to even really replace our
Mhm.
infrastructure that's aging year after year. The alternative to not being able to afford life. I love to talk about homes because it's the easiest example because we built a lot of these 50, 60, 70 years ago. And now we really can't do that in an affordable way. The alternative to that, and where people, since they've lost that ground, they need some assistance. And that's not a fault of their own, and those are systemic things, is one where you make the economy productive and people get to like private ownership is more a thing and people are more They're able to sustain themselves. The fact when someone makes a dollar, um, that dollar doesn't hold value, but instead it
Mhm.
erodes, is really destructive. And if you fix that, I believe you fix so many problems, and you can get the government in its rightful place of not being the lifeline for so many people. Because yes, no, that is true, but it also can be taken away.
Mhm.
Right? And so that is a very fragile position to be, and you're not a free country if you're beholden to people that can just say, well, if you do one thing wrong, we can pull this.
Yeah, because that's another thing that people should be afraid of. But because if you depend on the government to feed you, and I know this is an argument that has been used previously, that if you depend on the government to feed you, they have the power to starve you as well.
Yeah.
And people just don't think of that. But people start to freak out when they see it happening in real time. And now I know Andrew Yang, when he ran for president, he talked about, I think it was the American
Universal
dividend,
basic,
something like that,
universal, universal basic income.
the universal basic income, and he called it like the American dividend, something like that. Like, what do
Yep.
you think about that?
That's scary. That's not a good thing. So I believe that, and why I'm so passionate about running right now is as we get technology that becomes better,
Mhm.
and it becomes more invasive, if we can't, like, as we innovate, if we become worse off, we become more dependent on that,
Mhm.
right? And there will be a point on our current trajectory where Andrew Yang, he's completely right. People
Mhm.
will need to have assistance come in. And it's everything we just talked about. I mean, think about the dependence. If not only is it, I don't even know what percentage of the population is already using entitlement programs, but pretty much everyone is on that. I mean,
Mhm.
that is a society that is not a free and thriving society, but that is a top-down society. So it's a big reason why I'm so passionate in running, because I
Mhm.
just looking ahead, I see that as an inevitability of what's to come and the conversation that will be had. And I want to shift the conversation to how do we get to a point where people can actually control what they produce? Like, Eric, it's crazy to think
Mhm.
every year, every 2 years, a new phone comes out and
Yeah.
technology gets better, but we're still worse off. Like,
Mhm.
why is that? What is that? Well, that's going to entrap us in a Brave New World. I don't know if you've read Brave New World, but it's just a futuristic society where people just pretty much do what's most pleasurable. It's a very hedonistic society. Like, I believe that's just the trajectory that we're on.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about that, I mean, there's the other book, 1984, which, I mean, not really related to this subject, but it's also uh the fear that we might be living in a society that certain ideas, especially like these ideas, could be muted and other ideas could be amplified, and certain ideas could just be erased and have people thinking like, no, this is wrong, this is incorrect. L- like that whole thing is pretty scary to even think about.
Yeah. It's Yeah, so much of that's kind of like social media, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't necessarily know what's real or not, and that's why it's always best to have a conversation in real life. Social media is a great way to, there's a lot of utility for it,
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's really important that people are able to sustain themselves. I'm not a rugged individualist. Society does have roles. They do have roles, but
And
it,
I
we do not want to live we do not want to live in a society
mhm.
where we don't own anything.
Yeah. No, and I think that's where we're going, that we won't own anything and we will be happy, right?
There you go. You got it.
Yeah, but I mean, even when you think about social media, it's scary because that's why podcasts are pretty good because whatever conversation you're listening to, that's what's being spoken about. But when it comes to social media, I've heard that even the comments that you see are generated by the algorithm, by your certain algorithm. Like that's
Hmm.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, I think a good idea is making sure that people can understand the algorithms. Like there's and maybe even a way to opt out so people can see stuff in a particular order, right? But I think people need to know how they're being manipulated because I mean, it's a huge power, right? I mean, gosh, I mean, we all spend way too much time on our phones, right? I mean, how
yeah.
much influence do these companies have?
Yeah, like we don't watch TV as much, but the time has been, if you even want to call it that, invested into being on our phones. And it's just
Yep.
so accessible that people could be at work and just be on their phone all day. It's like just sitting in front of the TV all day, just being fed information.
Yep.
And, even though there's a lot of people that might shy away from certain conversations, especially when it comes to abortion, because even when it comes to abortion, people are very heated in the way or in what they believe in.
Yes.
But these are important
Yes.
conversations to have. And when conversations, especially like this one, doesn't happen, people just don't really have um, a medium to form their opinion or improve their opinion or maybe hear the other side and like, well, there is a side of it that might be right and it may change your opinion going forward. But yeah, like people need to have hard discussions no matter how hard they are because they're important and these are issues that affect people um a lot.
Yeah.
So, but I know that we are ending our time, but it was an incredible and interesting conversation to have with you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Eric. Good talking.
Yeah, good talking to you, and good luck with your campaign because it's a difficult campaign.
Yeah. No, we're excited at the opportunity. Like I said, it's Americans, just what's going on in America. People are united on what the problem is. The country feels like the path we're on is just globally just not good. And I'm really excited the opportunity to speak to those problems and hopeful that that'll come across and we can win.
All right. Well, good luck.
All right. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.